and welcome to the program Perspectives. This morning we'll be looking at Nigeria today. And talking about Nigeria today, I'd like to, take you a little back to this journey going 22 years since return to democracy and, of course, to civil rule, too, where we are with Nigeria, and, of course, tying our democracy to the rule of law. The rule of law today, as some people would say, blatantly, disregarded and abused, so to say. And so for a democracy to thrive and succeed, where is the place of the rule of law? To share thoughts with me on this matter today, I have Barrister Gloria Ballason in the studios with me. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the House of Justice. She's also a public affairs analyst, too. Barrister Gloria Ballason, good morning. Glad to have you all with us.
Mr. Labe, it's such a pleasure to connect with you again. Yeah.
More than any other time, 22 years that we're going on with this process, this democratic process, rule of law, for some people has been blatantly abused, disregarded too, and for a democracy to survive, where is the place of the rule of law?
Thank you for the question. I think it's quite obvious even for the most passive observer to see how the rule of law has been trounced and abused and be made nothing in the country. And it comes with so much shock, the kind of shock that people cannot have a therapy for. Because many of the things that we are seeing under democratic rule were things that the military rule could not even contemplate, not to talk about implement. So, for instance, in any democracy, the rule of law is central. You also have the issue about elected representatives, an independent judiciary, a working opposition party, and then civil liberties. Those are 5 features that make for any democracy around the world. So in terms of rating whether, a democracy is working, these are 5 things that should coexist. None should exist without the other. So if we look at the rule of law, what we see now is often the use of force. People who decide what they want to obey and what they do not want to obey. So you see the Nigerian leadership picking and choosing those laws that they feel that they want to comply with. Incidentally, the first thing that you see in the Nigerian Constitution, talking about Section 1, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution, says that there shall be a constitution, and the constitution is supreme and it will have binding force on all authorities and all peoples. Which really means that no one can assume that based on his office he's exempted from obeying those laws. And sadly, that's not what we see.
I tie this again with what we're seeing today, that transparency and accountability should also be part of, this democratic process. But again, some people would say, or quite a good number of analysts would say, that's also missing here.
Yeah, clearly that's missing. We have when it comes to counting in this country, we have a public selective amnesia to figures. So whether it's our elections, you're not likely to have a true reflection of what transpired in an election. Whether it is a census, you're not likely to have a true reflection of what transpired in the census. Whether it is about accountability in public places, you're not going to get the figures that are required. These are issues that we as a country need to contemplate, and we need to have a mirror moment. Do we want to persist in error? Or do we want to get to a point where we say, look, we must take clear ownership over this country, and what is required is the honesty to deal with the issues. So in terms of accountability, as a country, we have not done well. And the buck always stops with the leadership. So you see that even with the elections, a number of Nigerians come out, committed citizens wanting to go and cast their votes. Even young people who otherwise would be distracted will get on the numbers, will get on the queues because they want their votes to be counted. Unfortunately, those who think that the powers belong to them, who have usurped these powers from the people, we'll start from the point of who do we have in the electoral body and how should that pan out for us at the end of the day. So again, we go back to the issues, and it goes back to the very foundation that the issue about our ownership for this country and the need to be sincere and to be honest has to be at the very base of what we build our country on.
Some people have come out to say that what is really wrong and where is what we have to look at, the Constitution, or talking about this leadership that has been thrown on the people. That you just talked about believing in our elections and that we can have it credible and fair. But is it the Constitution that is wrong? Or it needs to be re-examined, so to say.
I think that the Constitution as it stands, if we obey it, we'll still have a great working document. There are countries that do not have constitutions, but they have the moral force of right and wrong. So the first thing is that, and we need to get back to the basics in this country, that clarity about right and wrong, that we cannot continue to rationalize wrong just because it fits our spleen. So if we talk about INEC, for instance, you say it is an independent National Electoral Commission. So why don't we have the best hands, people of credibility? You know the joke around, how is it that professors are now being the ones who are rigging the numbers? Like, if you're a professor and you cannot count, what does that say about you? So at the end of the day, really, it's not about what is written. It's about our sense of values. It's about our sense of understanding that, look, you cannot build something on nothing and expect it to stand.
Our institutions. Again, people find fault lines with the institutions that they're not really working, or may just be institutions that are just there and do not in any way play the kind of role that would be expected of them.
During the Barack Obama period, I think from the moment that President Barack Obama said that what Nigeria needs is strong institutions and not strong leaders, it became something of a catchphrase for public affairs analysts to say, we need strong institutions and we don't. But I think that the truth is, at the end of the day, there is no institution that stands without human beings. Human beings and their values make up the institutions. And so in terms of our institutions, I would say that the Nigerian, those who occupy those places, it goes back to the issue of what are you more committed to? Are you committed to the person who gives you a job, or who became the means by which you got the job, or are you committed to your country and to the things that matter? So for instance, the United States has gone through a phase in the last election. We saw what happened, the attack on the Capitol Hill, and what that meant for their democracy. And President Biden said that democracy prevailed, which means that in America, that has always been the country where we quote in terms of democracy, what happened was that even the democracy was under threat and it had to fight its way through. How was it able to prevail? It prevailed because it had an independent judiciary. You saw the dispatch with which the judges treated all the objections that President Trump raised and all the filings that came before them. It also prevailed because the security agents were professional in the manner in which that they handled the elections. So you didn't have anyone, whether it was the secret agents coming to say, well, because it's President Trump, we're going to mark out and mop up things in such a way that we ensure that he gets his way. So again, when you speak about institutions in this country, I think people need to go beyond who are the appointing powers to what is the appointing authority and what is the ultimate goal for a country like ours that is still journeying and is still falling and rising on its own path.
We're talking about Nigeria today and also tying it with the rule of law in our democratic process. Again, Barrister Gloria Balasin, look at Nigeria today and where we are with her. We're having people being told to relocate from where they are, and of course and then we're getting a lot of noise about can Nigeria hold. Now I'm going back to what happened before 2015, that predictions that have come that can Nigeria hold until 2015, but it did. We got it going. But how can we get it going from this point where all of this is coming out in our democratic process, especially on the rule of law, blatantly disregarded and abused?
So let me be able to say, without mincing words, that President Muhammadu Buhari has failed. And everything that we see stems from that failure.
The buck stops on the president's table?
It stops at his table. The buck stops at his table. The inability to take action. You see, again, we go back to the Constitution, because if as a country we have said that the Constitution is the supreme law, then what's Section 1, subsection 2 says is that there is no people or any authority that can superintend over the country. So you sit down and you read shocking news that some people are giving parking orders to others. You see another section which feels that it has the power and authority to take over the entire place, and is telling you, look, this is the condition upon which we're going to live in peace, that people are no longer going to be killed. So you ask yourself, how is it that a few people can sit and decide for the rest of us? We're talking about a country that has about over 200 million people. Then you have this section of people who decide for us whether we're going to go and sleep and wake up or not. Then you have another set of people who are saying, no, we're not going to take this, so get out from our own territory. That shows you an absence of leadership. And if we do not look, and over the last few days, I've seen a lot of buck passing. You listen to it, the governor of Bauchi State putting the blame on the governor of Benue State. You listen to Kadaria Ahmed putting the blame on journalists. You listen to even us, the citizens. So there have been killings in the north all over. But in the last week, the killing that happened in Ibadan, you see this uproar saying, stop killing northerners. But there were killings in the north by northerners, and you didn't see the uproar. So it means that it looks like, oh, there's one killing that is worse than the other, which takes us to the issue about our value for human life as citizens. Because you see, at the end of the day, if the presidency has failed us, we cannot afford to fail ourselves. And the only way we can choose not to fail ourselves is to look at our, look, you have never locked eye with one other person who is not as human as you are. And for that purpose, we must be invested enough to say, look, if the government fails, we must be alive to find our own path. Look at it. In terms of security, there is an absence of security. In terms of the economy, absence of economy. Are we talking about our education, failure in education? What is it that we are really going to say that is working for us? So as citizens, again, we have to take ownership to make sure that things happen until we can get the kind of leadership that works for us.
Again, I take you on citizenship too, and what citizens must do. In this democracy too, it must be seen that we must have a strong civil, society.
Yes.
The civil society, have we had it as strong as it should be to speak on matters of governance?
It's less than a week ago, precisely on Saturday, young Nigerians went to the Lekki Gate and they said, look, there is a judicial inquiry sitting. They are not yet done with their own report. People were killed in Lekki Gate. And they have now gone to say, look, we want to reopen the gate. Don't forget, during that protest, there were police stations that were burnt. There were people who were killed. There were businesses that was burnt down. Why was it the Lekki Gate that was so much of a priority for it to be opened? So young Nigerians took a walk and they said, look, we are going to go and say, this is not right. We haven't even addressed the number of people who were killed. And you know the kind of conspiracy theories and propaganda that went around the killings until we had a foreign media come to say, look, these are the facts that we have. It wasn't like Nigerians were so dumb that they didn't know that people were killed. So now the judicial panel is still sitting. And then they decide that, look, they're going to open. How is that a priority? So you're talking about civil liberties. Nigerians, as difficult as things are still standing. And the arrest of Mr. Macaroni, people can say what they can, but one of the most pleasing thing is that these young people, they're not so carried away by their businesses and by their sense of self that they do not understand the things that matter. So this is a government that has zero tolerance to dissent. People will talk about the things that they feel are wrong, and then those that they will go after are those who are speaking against the ills. A stark reality on Saturday. There was a situation in Lagos. There was another situation in Ibadan. But you had all the security agents marshaled as troops of war at the Lekki gate. And then you had Ibadan, where we could have nipped the situation in the bud, unattended to. What does it say about our priority about human lives? What does it say about our priority on what matters in the country?
You're coming on strong, and I'm saying you're coming on strong because could it just be that this bitterness about the young in the society being handled, especially when you're talking about citizens too, you pour it all on leadership, so citizens do not have their own faults?
So if we're going to take the situation of last Saturday, what did they do that was wrong, those young people? They were beaten, thrown into a Black Maria. Don't forget, the last time that the issue of the use of Black Maria was prescribed was in the military era, actually. That was the time when, civil liberties were moving for democracy. And because of the number of people who suffocated, they said, no, you can't even use it. But you had the LCC itself, the owner of the toll gate, preparing a Black Maria for citizens to be taken. That place is where you have the private-public partnership. So when we are doing private-public partnership, you mean that is all that we could have come up with, a situation where the public will criminalize, the private sector will criminalize the public sector, that is saying, no, this is not a priority. Take the situation in Ibadan. There are many accounts, but clearly one thing that continues to resonate is that it started at a particular place. What happens to crime prevention? You really could have been able to deal with the issue of 2 or 3 people who were fomenting trouble before it escalated. But no, it was not a priority. The issue about young people going to protest then became a priority. And since when did we have a country where we cannot accept another opinion that doesn't sound like ours? And consistently, this is what happens under this government, a government that has refused to understand that they cannot be all and end all. Even for those of us who lead in private sectors, you pay the bills, yes, but the moment where you decide that you're the only person with the monopoly of knowledge, you know that company is going down. Talk about it in terms of a country. That sense of knowing that, oh, people have voted for you, and yet you're so devoted and so set in your own ways as a government, as a party. And again, you see the kind of propaganda that goes on. Again, back to the Lekki situation. The commissioner of police comes and he says he's going to investigate the violations that took place. Then the attorney general comes and says, oh, thank God nothing happens. Then you have someone like Loretta Onochie speaking on behalf of the government saying, oh, the police were professional. The CP himself has admitted, that something went wrong with his men, and he's going to set up an investigation. But then from the presidency, they're saying, oh, the police were professional. Again, it takes us to the power of truth. And when it comes to building a country, you can either be on the side of truth or be against the truth. But whichever side that you choose, you cannot run away from the consequences.
We are, going through some difficult, moments as it looks. But again, getting out of it, and of course, somebody would say it's not going down into the hole or jumping into a hole that is the matter. It's jumping out that is the matter. 2023 is just, we're just looking ahead at it and wondering what will happen. And it's a critical moment for Nigeria and its survival. What are the things to begin to look at and to put right as we journey to 2023?
So what has happened, and I got a reminder today about the postponement of the elections in 2019. It happened, today is the anniversary. And the INEC postponed the elections. We are yet to get a convincing reason why that election was postponed. But I think people can now see the signs. So we need to be able to read in between the lines. During the last elections, you had the first term of President Buhari where the performance was less than abysmal. then
by your
people,
own judgment,
by
opinion too, maybe.
Yeah, is it by my own opinion? Security, how many people? I mean, I just came to Invicta, and there is a private, we didn't used to have this situation where everywhere people will set up their own guards. Now that is the situation. So, and when you say under section 14(2)(b) that security is the primary purpose of government, it's like having a prerequisite course. If you like, pass all the borrowed courses. When you fail the prerequisite course, you have failed. You have failed. And so there is 2023 coming along the way. Can Nigerians now learn that what we need is somebody who can work, somebody who can gather us together as a nation, and not someone who looks, in quotes, like us, who speaks our own language? We need someone who has a sense of nation. And that's why whenever I speak about the Buhari administration, it's particularly painful for me because, you know, when you reach a certain age and you have seen what a country has gone through, you should be invested enough to say, look, I have to make things better. I'm in the twilight of my life. I've seen what this country has gone through under the military era, under the civilian era. Now that I am here, I need to make things better. Under this government, you have to beg your president time and time again to even talk to you. And when he does, you have all the party faithfuls coming to explain to you how you are so privileged that he talks to you, including those who are his spokesperson.
Leadership may come with his own style. I mean, we're not running away from that, are we?
You see, any leadership that does not constantly consult with the people is no leadership at all. Why is it, and I take you, why is it that during the campaigns, he did not sit and he said, oh, my own style is not to interact with the people. I will sit in my house in Daura and talk with anybody who wants to talk to me. Why did he take the pains to go through state after state, people after people, to interact with them? And now that they have invested him with trust, it's difficult for him to maintain that style, and suddenly the style has changed because it is a thing of convenience. Listen,
you know, it could just be for governance to work, and so we come out with our style again for young ones.
But the governance is not working.
Who says?
The people say. The people feel it. Economy is bad. We are right in the middle of a pandemic, and people are dying. You know, we look at all the figures that NCDC gives, but we cannot really say for sure due to our perennial counting problem whether those are the realities. But knowing a country like ours that suffers from so many things, there are other diseases that other countries have been able to overcome. We're still dealing with them. Add that to a global pandemic. Then think about insecurity in a global pandemic. In the last era, the good luck era, we were all screaming because the Northeast could not be inhabited. Now it is every part of the country. There is not an area in Nigeria that is not dealing with one form of insecurity or the other, which means that from a regional problem, we now have a national problem of insecurity. Listen, when it comes to leadership, it's not about what I want to hear or what feels good about me. You saw it also, and people can have their disagreement with Obasanjo. I'm not exactly his fan and I don't speak for him. But he was able to work with people that he did not particularly like, so long as they could deliver. You don't, in terms of leadership, say, I'm going to bring my friends and cronies and people because I like them. You don't have
perception of individuals and group to say that. I mean, this is Nigeria. We all have ownership of Nigeria, and to say that I want to work with people I can trust, what is wrong with that? And you know, they could come from all over anyway.
Everything is wrong with it because even the Constitution frowns against it. And it really has nothing to do with people's personal preference, because you see, power that is not accountable for, that is not accounted for, is power on rampage. And power on rampage is the most deadliest thing that you could ever have. It's the kind of power that says, look, I will not allow anybody to even ask me questions. So once it goes on rampage, it destroys everything along its way, and when there is nothing else left to destroy, what it does is it self-destroys.
We have not gotten to that point. We're not there. We're not there.
Well, if you are not the person who has had to bury someone who you slept with the last night, and then you woke up the next morning and you cannot believe that your relative who you smiled with, who you had hopes and dreams with, did not wake up for no other reason other than he exists, then you would then have the luxury to say, we're not yet there. But there are people who are bleeding. Think about the issue of kidnapping. Kidnapping has now become a huge venture in the country. And you see, aside from the fact that the Constitution says no set of people can take over the part of the government, we're having terrorists who are taking over the country now. How do I mean? You have Boko Haram. Then you wake up one day and you say, oh, this Boko Haram, they have repented. We're giving them money to rehabilitate. What have you done with the victims? Nothing. You have kidnappers. The amount of money that goes into ransom in this country is staggering. And the SBM Intelligence, an intelligence company in Nigeria, it says between 2019 to 2020 alone, that about $81 million was the money that was received from Nigerians as ransom. It's still on the internet. Anybody can click it and see. Think about that money in terms of investment. But think about the people who are dispossessed of their money. And we're not a very rich country. There are more poor people in Nigeria than there are rich people. But people are kidnapped. And everybody has to bring his 1 naira, his whatever he doesn't have, because we need to save somebody. So things are really, really bad.
And government is also working, I mean, to do away with the criminals in the society. It's not as if government is sitting down and allowing things to just get out of, the way. Government is working.
Even the government itself needs to assess itself and see if it's working.
The program is Perspectives, and coming to you on Invicta 98.9, and sharing thoughts with me this morning on Nigeria today, and especially the rule of law in democracy. And with me, Barrister Gloria Balatson, the CEO, House of Justice, here in Kaduna, Public Affairs Analyst, sharing thoughts with me this morning. We'll come back after this break. Program Perspectives on Invicta 98.9, and we're looking at Nigeria today, the rule of law in our democracy. And of course, talking about where we are with Nigeria today, Gloria Balatson, the CEO, House of Justice, and also a public affairs analyst, sharing thoughts with me today. Barrister, again, where we are with Nigeria today, it's been said that the elites could just be the problem of Nigeria, because they are the ones that ignite the trouble, so to say, and then the poor ones, are at the receiving end of it all. The poor man in Sokoto wants to live his life to feed and, remain peaceful. So you find the man in Anambra or Ibadan or whatever. But, troubles are ignited, and the interpretations given to these troubles, again, escalates in such a way that we find that we are at daggers drawn.
When people say that the elites are the problem, I think that profiling in itself is problematic. So we don't end up being like those on the streets who would see somebody with a good car, who may have worked hard for his good car, and we think that he's the thief. Let's move to those who have the constitutional duty of ensuring that things work. And that is where we have the problem. From the executive to the legislature to those in the judiciary who do not understand that the judiciary is supposed to be independent of the powers of who is in government. Within those three areas, those three spheres of government, once we get it right, everything will be okay. Because you see, they are the ones who have been saddled with the duty of ensuring compliance with law. They are the ones who have been saddled with the duty of ensuring that everything is done in such a way that it's a country that belongs to all and nobody will stick out like a sore thumb. So for me, I would think that those who have the constitutional duty to ensure that this country work are the ones who we should place the blame on. and not those who are private citizens who are into their own businesses and getting their own jobs done.
We've not had it right, even with successive governments. Muscling, so to say, the executive muscling down on the, legislature, and of course the judiciary too, being hit on all sides. It just didn't happen with this administration. Past, administrations have done that too. And so why are we not, allowing each, each to perform its duties? Why are we having this muscling, especially coming from the executive?
I think that while we cannot say that we ever got it to a point of excellence, I do not remember things being this bad. And this is not just one other line that someone who sits in a chair and is facing Toyin Alabi would say. Take a quick look at it, the executive itself. There is no sense of what should be done. Once you have a situation where the governors themselves begin to trade blames, then we know that there's a problem. You have a situation where the president has to be cajoled to address his citizens and yet doesn't do that. You know that there's a problem. You have a situation where the government is persistently thinking about how to reward terrorists and not how to resettle victims. You know you have a problem. Go to the legislature. Part of the feature of a democracy, again, is that you should have elected representative. It's not to say we went to the polls. It's that those people must have popular mandate. The head of the Senate, the Senate President, the Speaker of the House of Reps, how did they evolve? Did they evolve through a fair means of representation and the voting process? We all know that we had all this conversation even when that situation happened. So you still again have faithful party faithfuls, not people who think that they should be more interested in a country. So the first 4 years of the Buhari administration, you had a Bukola Saraki who did not exactly always agree with the president. And that is the beauty of democracy, a situation where we can have different perspectives, so that when the perspectives are now viewed, we then have a situation where we can elect which one works best. But a situation where you have a legislative assembly that is more a place of assent for the president, then you see it becomes problematic.
What is wrong with party faithfuls being, getting what, could just be given to them for a job well done? I mean, these are party matters and affairs.
Our country is not here for the partition of whoever the government or the president likes the best. Running a country is serious work. Those who run businesses, I think they understand it, that it is tedious work to run a business. And part of the part about business that is most tedious is actually the manpower. How do you have the right resources? Because once you have the right resources, you will then your productivity is almost 100% guaranteed, because the right resources will ensure that you have the right outcome. But you have a situation where we just want to, we want to run this is our own time, let's petition, let's run the big party before the 4 years or 8 years is over, at the detriment of a country. That doesn't speak well about the kind of leadership that we have. So again, it goes back to the issue of criminalizing dissent, that we have a government that is more against those who think that the way it is running is not right, than against the kidnappers, than against the insurgents, than against the things that are working against us. So the priorities are misplaced. Where the energies should be thrown at is not where we're throwing the energies. We're throwing the energies in the wrong place, so we're having the wrong results.
Is opposition, been fair in all of these? Because again, they pick on whatever government does to punch holes and pick holes with that. We've seen a lot of that coming out, and so to say that not much is being done by this government, or that something would go far to say that it's leadership failure. Would it just be fair?
Well, thankfully, I do not know how to spell PDP or APC if my life depended on it. So in terms of opposition, even the opposition we speak about in terms of APC and PDP, is not just that a democracy requires an opposition party, but an organized opposition party. You now have the same set of people crisscrossing from one place to the other. What has changed? You have the same set of people. So you hear someone speak so vehemently, they are the founding fathers of PDP, then the next time they move to APC and they're really insulting PDP, what they were part of. That's not an organized opposition party. An organized opposition party is a party that is not thinking about it in terms of how can we destroy them to get into power. An organized opposition party is how do we ensure that we point out the errors for the good of our country. An organized opposition party is not a set of politicians who are more intent about what fits them as individuals. An organized opposition party is a party that thinks about what is up for the national good and how do we progress the country and how can we compete with the other party to ensure that what we are giving the country is far better than what the other, not by destruction but by demonstrating how it can be done. So if we have an opposition party that just wants to destroy just in order that, you know, they can have an opportunity to win the next time, at the end of the day, it's one country that we have. We don't have a country for Gloria Balasin different from a country from Lai Mohammed, different from a country from Muhammad Buhari, different from a country from Nasir El-Rufai. It's still the same country. So it's either we decide that we are going to invest in the country or we're going to destroy it. It's one of two things.
But that's, the latter one is not what we want, right?
Nobody should look at a beautiful country like ours with so much potentials and think that the only thing fit for this country is destruction. I don't know any Nigerian who wishes ill for this country. And you know, a lot of the citizens are just caught and trapped in things that they do not understand. And that's why there has to be a lot of education for our citizens. We cannot sing the same songs that those who do not mean well for this country are singing. What it means, therefore, is that we must deepen our thought process. If there are people who are being killed, regardless of who they are, we must all be interested to say, no, this killing has to stop. Why? When your neighbor's house is burning and you sit in your own house and you say, because it's not my own house, it's only a matter of time that the fire will gallop from your neighbor's house and move to your own house. So that sense of it is why we should be concerned if people are killed in Ibadan, if people are killed in Lekki Tollgate, if people are killed in the northeast, if people are killed in southern Kaduna or Birnin Gwari or Chikun. We should all have the same kind of concern because at the end of the day, we're all human beings.
The program is Perspectives, and let's get you into this program, be part of the conversation. We're talking about Nigeria today and, of course, the rule of law in our democracy. And sharing thoughts with us on this, we have Barrister Gloria Balasin, the CEO, House of Justice, a public affairs analyst. And numbers to call to be part of this program, 081 40,000 989, 081 40,000 989, or 070 87 800 989, 070 87 800 989. Take your calls now. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is Tai, calling from...
Your name is...
Tai.
Tai.
From Banam. Yeah, I seriously appreciate your guest.
Thank you.
In fact, these are people with charisma that we bring to the studio to educate and enlighten the people. Seriously, madam. God, it is simply mercy. But let me say something clear, See, a dispensation that are not proactive in sensitive issues, but neither they are reactive in the criticism. A government that cannot receive criticism is not a government. I have to be honest with you, sir. This dispensation, like seriously, after 2023, what the people remember them of, sir, is nothing. Seriously, the primary responsibility of every dispensation is to protect life and property. But failure to do so, you're failed woefully, just like your guest saying in the studio. And with her. Now, what happened in Ibadan? When Professor Wonishinka came to tell Mr. Perry that be more proactive than reactive, the reverse was the case. That you need to civil war. Even when we're losing the old civil war, they're criticizing. What I would say, some other governor rushing to meet my able governor, Sheima Kinde.
Okay,
So what?
I can see where you're
In
going.
the north, are you saying that other regions were not free? Why other governments are not coming? These governments are failed mostly and they have money to offer. Thank you. God bless you.
Okay, all right, that's from Tai. Well, Barrister, you want to pick on some of the points raised?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's very sad. It's very sad, even the sense of leadership's reaction to some of these things that happen. And it's disappointing. Disappointing because even with the governors, they need to exercise restraint. I listened to the Kaduna State governor speak about how, it's because he's not getting cooperation from other governors. That's why things are not working. He admitted that he had paid terrorists. Recently, he's also castigating another sheikh because he is suggesting that, you see, there needs to be consistency in values. And consistency in values also speak to your sincerity of dealing with a problem. And I will continue to speak to our leaders. Listen, the point is never to get to a point where you think that one person is more human than the other. That's not leadership. That's not leadership. No matter the kind of degrees that you acquire, if you do not have human empathy and a sense of right and wrong, you are more likely to fail in leadership. So again, we see in the Ibadan situation, something that could have been nipped in the bud, and then it was allowed to escalate, and now the rest of the citizens who were not there but are picking snippets of it are thinking that, oh, a set of people were targeted. No. When there is criminality, let us punish crime for what it is. Let's not allow that criminality to be profiled. Because the problem with profiling a situation is that people are forced to take sides. Because you have already profiled my people as this, even those who have the objectivity to deal with it now have to be forced to decide whether they want to be with their people or whether they want to be with the other people, because the middle ground is the place where you're caught in the crossfire. So we must not profile criminality. Let us punish crime for what it is so that we can read it and have a safe society for all.
Stay with your calls. Hello, good morning.
Hello, Mr. Talabi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I'm IC Modu calling from Idumusa Mandela.
IC Modu, all right.
Thank you. I think your guest is well spoken, and she spoke the mind of many Nigerians, and which is the truth. We must lead all our institutions independently to execute their duties. But if you watch the arms of government, which is the law, have been siphoned by the elite of politicians. It is not well for us, and it cannot go well if part of a governance have been siphoned and controlled by the elite. That's why you see elite will do something that is supposed to be prosecuted but cannot be prosecuted simply because they are the ones controlling the judiciary arms. So it is very unfortunate. Our prayer that it will be well. So please, let all put hands in deck and stop all these bad things, because it will affect our future.
All right. I see model. Okay, got you on that. Still with your calls. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Talabi.
Good morning.
Good morning to your girls.
Good morning.
Yeah,
all right, let's hear you.
I think your girls have just made my day today. She spoke as a true Nigeria. There is all the words she speaks this morning are just the truth. We can't have a government of citizens that cannot protect life and property of the citizens. So if they are trying their best, according to them, their best is not good enough, according to Engineer Manuel. Their first primary responsibility of any government is to secure life and property of the citizens. And now what are we seeing? Bandit now, just like what the governor said yesterday. He said bandit now killing at will. They are just like...
All right. Sorry, we're having problems with the line. But again, sure thing is that it cannot be said that government is just folding its arms and not doing anything about, the complaints that we're coming on with. Hello, good morning.
Hello, Mr. Trainalaji.
Good morning.
Good morning to the guests.
Good morning.
She has really made our day. This is Clement Colors calling from the most colorful part of Kaduna. I'm going to Mr. Trainalaji. she has said everything. I'm just wondering where you brought her from, because she's so intelligent. Thank you very much. In fact, this is just a miracle for us this morning. You see, the thing is, we've really been scared of talking to the government, but we never knew that we have someone like this that can talk and then speak our mind. Thank you. God bless you. I'm just so happy.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Clement callers. Let's take over some calls. Say hear you. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Tony Alabi.
Good morning.
Yeah, I am Engineer Uchendu.
Engineer Uchendu.
Yeah, calling from Romania Extension.
Oh, let's hear you.
I'm very happy with Barrister Spalace. She's a true Nigerian. He has told Nigerians what we need people to hear about. I'm happy with that. God will bless her.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to just take on this, Barrister Gloria. Heard from one or two callers that you're a true Nigerian, and I'm just wondering, who is that Nigerian who is not true? So I want to take you on that.
So I'm listening to what should be a compliment, and I'm actually getting sober, because what it means is people want to say, but this is not right, and they can't even say that. Do you know what it means to be in a democracy where you can't say, but I do not agree? Think about it in terms of the children you give birth to, and they can't even look at you and say, but Daddy, I don't like what you did, because you're going to beat them or pull them down or worse still, dehumanize them. That's where we are. That's what Saturday taught us, that when you have protesters, that the government will rather release people against protesters than against people in Ibadan who are killing lives. And it's not whether they want to hear this or not. It's that this path in which we are going on is leading us to nowhere very quickly. It is that we shouldn't have Nigerians who are slaves in their own land.
But Barrister, quickly too, Lekki, that you brought about. Again, government sent warnings, and we also do know that protests of such nature could escalate. Criminals could take, over, and that is what government was worried about. And so, do we just allow like the first one that happened and what we saw?
So the first one that happened, just to establish the record, protesters were not the ones who wreaked havoc. There were sponsors of those, and some of them came in official vehicles. It's there, and it can be seen. What is it about government that makes dissent so much a thing that irks them, but not the criminality that happens? Think about if the government puts in as much force against kidnappers, against the killer bandits, in the manner in which they go after citizens who are saying that this is not correct. And what were what are the protesters asking for? They are legitimate concerns. The first one answers, you're brutalizing us. So, and this is the irony. Citizens are coming to say, police are brutalizing us. Then the police brutalize them. So they have reinforced. You don't even need an accurate timekeeper and what do you call it in a debate to come and say this is the person who has won the debate. Unfortunately, it's more serious than a debate. It is that lives are being killed by those who should protect them. And this is serious. So again, whether it's the kidnapping or the armed robbery, what is wrong with our security intelligence that we cannot nip this from the bud? So there's a lot of problem. And again, it will go back to, do we want things to work? The other part that usually is the part that breaks my heart is the independence of the judiciary. When people come before the court, the lawyers, the litigants, they say, your worship, they say, my lord, they say, your lordship. Carry that dignity with everything that is required. Let no executive dictate to you what a judgment should be like. You must have the clarity to give what is right to who is right and give what is wrong to who is wrong. Why? Because at the end of the day, we have an ultimate judge whoever you are, you will stand before that judge, and with the same judgment that you give out, the same judgment will be given to you. But we must also think about the dimension of how many people who have been victimized, then they come to the court and then they are doubly victimized, so they return by a whipping cross, which means that the system that should protect them now becomes a system that makes things difficult. And this is with due respect to the wonderful men and women of the judiciary that even in the midst of this heat consistently do what is right. But again, there is so much pressure even on the judiciary, and they are caving in. You see it with how the former Chief Justice of Nigeria was taken out by an ex parte motion. You see it by the kind of judgments that come out, whether it is the Imo State judgment. That judgment does not need anybody on the street how can you pick somebody number 4 and make him the governor? So these are the things, and you know, they always think that Nigerians do not see these things. They see these things, they understand it, and it's breaking people because they know that this is not how it should be done. So whoever you are and whatever title you take, at the end of the day, we have just one country, and we have just one life.
Barrister Gloria Ballatson, thank you for coming on the program.
It's always my pleasure, and I wish Nigeria well.
Always a delight to have you on the program. That's just about the size of it on Perspectives today, looking at Nigeria today, and of course the rule of law in our democratic setting. And sharing thoughts with us, we've had Barrister Gloria Ballatson, the CEO, House of Justice, a public affairs analyst. Food for thought for you and I. Kind chat. Thank you for connecting us with the people. We'll come back with Perspectives tomorrow.